Hey everybody, I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to As Above, So Below, a rune and tarot divination for Monday, the second day of October, 2023. Well, let me get my card out here. Uh, we've been starting out with an oracle card from the I'm gonna say it wrong again. I just know it. The Wild and Sacred Feminine deck. I really like this deck. I like decks that talk about that reference women essentially, and in this time of the dying of patriarchy, the strength of women is rising, and it embodies everything. And in terms of Pachamama, we're talking about the Earth Mother here, and reciprocity, what we owe the earth. We're part of the earth. We're made of the same chemical compounds the earth is made of, and the universe is made of. So what do we owe the earth, though, as humans that live here? We've sort of, at least some humans have done some, especially corporation humans, they've damaged the earth through the type of business that they're in, whether it's looking for oil or gems, or just not taking care of things, not being good stewards of the land, not understanding our relationship with them, and that we have a responsibility to care for this earth. And Pachamama reminds us of that. It's interesting that in this deck they've associated the term reciprocity with that. But we have that reciprocal relationship with the land. If you just let it go, you put a bunch of trash on it or what have you. Obviously, we're not thinking in terms of that, are we? When we think of climate change, when we look at environmental issues, people it's always discredited, or not discredited, but discounted as something that isn't real. Well, it is real. And what we owe the earth that we live on so that we can continue to live here matters. It's interesting that we have, it's October 2nd. The 2 is also a number of reciprocity. And whether you think in terms of as above, so below, that's a type of reciprocity of the soul and the relationship with the physical form. Well, part of that is the earth. And do we understand things with a little higher clarity about that, or do we continue to act in ways that are disrespectful? And whether you're talking about the earth or whether you're talking about the collective consciousness of the earth, which includes all of us, it's easy to think in terms of collective consciousness of spirit, because you can see all the souls are all one, right? You can think of it that way. Well, we are here too. Whether we're one together here. We're all human beings together. That's the unity on this earth. And the reciprocity we need to have with one another is also an expression of that. And that's a tough one, especially these days. There's a lot of polarity going on. But it's not polarity, I don't think, that really comes from something that's a higher awareness. I think it's the overreacting ego that's caused all of this, and it impacts the earth we live on by our habits, by our behavior. When you go and you go to a campground, it's very pristine and very beautiful. If everybody trashes it, well, what have you done in terms, where's the reciprocity there? It's given you a wonderful place to be, but everyone trashes it. So how wonderful is it now? What did we do to take care of that space, in other words? So, you see that manifested in reclamation projects. You see it where people go out and collectively come together and clean up a waterway of some kind. Maybe a creek needs cleaning up so that there's better, environment for the fish that live there or the animals that come and drink the water there. Is it potable? There's things that people do now environmentally to try to assist the earth and clean up the earth and heal the earth. There's that reciprocity there that they feel. But it can be involved in a lot of different ways. That concept of reciprocity doesn't specifically have to do with the earth, but in terms of at least the oracle card for today, that's how they're presenting that. Let's go ahead though and take the first rune for today from the Elder Futhark bag. Now that'll be the above side of things, and the runes, of course, are the significators for the reading. It's the overall principle. And then when we get done looking at that, we'll go ahead and I'll pull 3 cards from the deck, the tarot deck here, and we'll see what they have to say. Well, here we have kind of a little bit of a reciprocity here, Dagaz. Dagaz is the 23rd rune of the Elder Futhark. So, but the idea here is you stand in the center, and there's the end of one phase and the beginning of another. So it's a new day. So if reciprocity isn't something you've been thinking about in terms of the earth, maybe it's time to do so. You know, it sort of opens your mind to something else here today. But it's the idea of, again, one phase ending and another beginning. You're looking at, so it's endings and beginnings, but daylight, awakening, all doors are open, all things are possible when something new is beginning. Let's take a look at the Geomancy rune, though. I'll throw down the 4 elemental runes and put them in the order of fire, air, water, and earth. There's water. There's earth. Oh, well, okay. We have Tristitia as opposed to Laetitia. It's complement. Tristitia is sadness, but it's grief. It can be condemnation. It's really getting stuck there. This would be Tristitia. This would be its complement, Laetitia, which is joy. It portends good, positive fortune, positive experiences. But here you're kind of stuck. You see the series of three 2 dots here, and then you have a single dot here. That means that for fire, air, and water, that's a passive influence. And then down here is earth. That's an active influence. So again, in terms of Pachamama, we have to have some more active influences here for fire, air, and water to really start understanding our responsibility for how we manage that level of reciprocity for things. You can think of it in terms of what's your foundation, and are you giving to that? Do you understand the relationship between your foundation in life and whatever that is, whether it's your values and principles or your home life or whatever you consider that to be? Some people might put work in that. But here there's some grief going on, and there's some you're really getting stuck in it, I would say. Some sorrow. It could be condemnation. You might be getting angry about it. There might be some anger there. That's part of that grief. You could have experienced something really difficult that you've gone through. But what you need to know is that you stand on the precipice of something new here. It can represent the end of one phase where it's filled with grief. You could think of it as very negative thinking as well. But where you're really caught up in that and you don't seem to be able to get out of it. Well, Dagaz is suggesting that the energy is there to do that, that you can let go of that. You can take whatever you've learned from that experience and file it away. You don't necessarily have to get rid of it, but at the same time, you can't continue to focus on it. There's got to be a way out of that. And Dagaz is suggesting that if that's going on for you today, that there is an opportunity here to let one phase end, which is the grief phase, or the anger phase, or being upset, or feeling intense loss, or whatever this is. You can apply to a lot of different things, but there's got to be a doorway that opens to something else. And Dagaz is suggesting that in fact there is. So let's go ahead, and I'm just going to shuffle just a little bit more here. And then I'll cut the deck, and we'll take the lower half and 3 cards from the lower half of the deck to try to give us just a little bit more details. Might tell us what this is about. If we get like a 3 of swords or something, we'll know there's a betrayal going on, and you're pretty upset about that. But there's a point at which you've got to move on. Well. We have 2 cards from the major arcana, so definitely it's time to let go of the lower vibrational stuff that's going on and start looking at things from a higher perspective. This is the kind of the perfect card to do this with. We have let's see, I'm going to do the math really quick here on we have, We have a 13, an 8, and an 8. So 8 and 8 is 16, and that's 7, and 13 is 4, that's 11. So we have an 11 for the numerology of the cards themselves. But if we add in Degas, again, that would be the 23rd rune, so that's a 5. That's so 7 is observation or balance. Again, that's going to align with today's 2 as well, given that there's balance included with that as well. Also the reciprocity, but not so much reciprocity with the 7 as maybe, well, and one thing I've just noticed here with the 11, if we're just looking at the cards, 11, we're not going to reduce 11 because that's a master number, but if we did, that's a 2. So you'd have the 2, which is the lower vibrational numerology, and the 11, which is the higher vibrational numerology. So this the soul side of things, the higher awareness side of things. And so I think that what it's suggesting is the movement in that direction. So whatever's going on with you grief-wise, or sadness or loss or what have you, again, higher awareness is going to show you that that's not all there is for you, that you can actually move out of that situation and that emotional situation you're in, and move forward into something new. This is, again, with Degas, it's all about a new day. It's about awakening. It's the return of the light. It's the end of one phase and the beginning of another. So it means that this is a time where it's not that you're forgetting what happened, because it's obviously important. If you're getting stuck in those emotions, it's obviously important. But you have to have a different perspective on it at some point, to where you can move on and come back to life, essentially, and get back into the business of living it, instead of being stuck in the emotion of things. We start out with the card of death. We see death ride in on a horse. He's got his staff. We don't know. Maybe that's the scythe. We don't know. But instead, what we see on the staff or the scythe, if you will, maybe we just don't see the little piece there that's reaping. But here we have a white rose on the face of a black flag. The rose, you can see the pentagram in it. If you turn it up there, you can see that. But the tip of the pentagram is pointed downward. That's inverted. And that just means it's a focus on physical reality. That's all that means. Here, this means spirit. That's where the focus is. Here, the focus is on physical reality. There's nothing evil about it. It's just, that's all it means. And here we have the sun coming up between two towers. So again, a new day is dawning, again with Degas. And I mean, the card of death is really, really a card that symbolizes Degas, if you really think about it that way. Here we have the king dead on the ground. We have the queen bereft. We have the priest giving last rites. This may be their child. I don't know for certain. It looks kind of like he's got some kind of a strange horn in his hand, so he could be alerting the reaper it's time to come. You see over here, even though the river's blue and not red, this could indicate the river Styx. Here you have the ferryman's boat. Maybe we can look at it that way. Maybe maybe he is the ferryman in this card. But basically, this is a card of transition, and so is Degas. Again, transitioning from one phase to another. And in a sense, that's what we're doing with the card of death. I mean, it can indicate a death of someone you know, but it generally does not. It generally is about just sort of letting go of one set of perceptions and embracing a new set. It's that transition, it's that awakening, it's the light returning and creating a different type of balance for yourself. With Tristitia, it just suggests that the balance is not there. That again, that grief of some kind, anger, sorrow, any kind of feeling like that, where you're upset about something, you're getting stuck there and not allowing the light to come in to where you can get out of that and maybe gain a different perspective about what you're upset about. And death would just suggest that, this is the time to do that, that you need to let go of that which no longer serves and embrace something new here. We come to the Eight of Swords. Swords is the air element, so it's our mental faculties, it's balance, it's reasons, it's justice, it's communication. But here we have a woman who's in a red robe or a red gown, and she's barefooted. She's standing on the kind of the wet, soppy sand there. Looks like the tide has come in and has gone out again. You see the castle over here on the cliffs. And you see she's surrounded by 8 swords. Now, again, 8 is the number for strength. It's for inner strength, also outer strength. It's also for material recognition and approval, a greater harmony. But here, she's bound and she's blindfolded, and she's turning off the noise around her, all the chatter around her, even the chatter that's within, and all the negative self-talk, which again might align very well with Tristitia today. But this is the negative self-talk maybe that she's trying to turn off. She's got to get out of that. She's got to really find her way out of that, and she has to go within to do that, access higher awareness, and in some type of meditation, if you will. But here she is, and she's trying to find her way. She's trying to gain some enlightenment here and some awareness that isn't influenced by others and also by her own negativity. And so she's trying to find some inner harmony in a way. I don't really see this as about material recognition and approval. I see this really more about finding the inner strength to move forward without the influence of the negativity around her and the negativity that's been within as well. So again, moving in that Degas moment, in a sense, she would be right here in the center, wouldn't she? And looks like my husband's phone was ringing. Anyway, it's like, was that mine? No, mine's right here. So anyhow, but I think that it takes great strength, inner strength, to be able to accept the transition that's happening. And again, Degas is about transition. And in a sense, she's put herself in the center of that. And then when we look at the card of strength, another 8 number here, then you're looking at taming the wild within. And the wild would be the Tristitia within, staying stuck in negativity, staying stuck in that type of awareness, and you can't move forward. Here you have the goddess. She's got a garland around her waist, a long one here is like a little belt, and she's also wearing the same in her hair. And she's lovingly holding the lion's head in her hands. You see the lemniscate up here, which is eternity. But what does it also look like if you just round the edges? So there you have it. It's like Degas is present in every single card that we have here today, as is Tristitia. And here we're taming the wild within, essentially. We're using that inner strength to understand. It's a real as above, so below type of experience, with the goddess as spirit and the lion as ego. And finding that balance, that inner balance. The lemniscate also it involves that type of balanced energy. But if you look at it as just another type of Degas, or Degas is another type of a lemniscate or infinity symbol, again, if you turn the 8 on its side, or you look at the 8, you turn Degas on its side, you've got the maybe, and you round the corners, you've got the figure 8 or the number 8, don't you? There's just so many synchronicities here with this reading. I can't believe it. For a Monday, it's just almost overwhelming. But basically, we're talking about the inner strength to move on and move past emotions that really, it's not that you don't want to feel them. I mean, if something's upsetting you, then feel upset. You should be upset about it if that's what it calls for. But there comes a point where if you're still there and the situation is over and it's time to move on, well, sometimes it's hard to do that and we get stuck there. And I think that the energy today, in terms of reciprocity and trying to find the inner strength to see things from a different perspective, all of that, allowing that transition to take place. It takes the inner strength to do that. So I see that this card is very related to this one, because you need the inner strength here. And that's what she's doing by going within, by turning off the noise everywhere, the influences of her own negative self-talk and the influences of the circumstances around her or the people around her. She's got to find her way. And she's got to allow that transition, that rebalancing to take place. And to essentially experience her own Degas moment and tame that wild within, get a hold of, be the one in charge, in other words, of the emotions she's feeling, having higher awareness be in charge of that. Because basically, to not understand the bigger picture of something, we stay stuck in that moment, and it's difficult for us to move on. You're no longer living in the present, you're living in the past, and making that your reality. So where do you want to live today? Where do you live? Do you live in the moment? Do you make the most of those moments, or are those moments governed by past feelings and past experiences that you're really stuck in? It'd be interesting to know at this moment where Chiron is, because with Chiron being the wounded healer, it's there to teach us how to look at the experiences we've had from childhood or past life experiences that creep in that you're having to revisit now, and learning how to see them realistically and to then heal that within, to not judge yourself for it, but to look on it as a moment of healing and a moment of clarity that gives you then the tools to move forward. It's not a place to become stuck and to have that become your reality. Tristitia can become someone's reality very, very easily. And Degas is just suggesting, as is death, as is the Eight of Swords, as is the card of strength, that you have the ability to see things from a different perspective and to put that whatever has happened that's caused you to get stuck in the tristitia of it all, to live in the past instead of the present moment, to have that strength to do that. You really do have it. And this is the time, this is the day where the energies are aligning for you. And it's time now to really take a look at things, to turn off the noise of even your own thought processes and access higher awareness. And through meditation or however you want to do that, some people like to just take a walk in nature. They like to get out away from everything. That's the way they express the Eight of Swords. And they go into, again, and with drawing Pachamama today for the Oracle card, it's suggesting that a return to that resonance, that earth type resonance, where the Earth Mother holds you in her arms of the whole collective aspect of self here, the connection we have with our grounding, essentially. It just seems like with Tristitia we lose some of that, and we're not able to really invoke what we need to invoke. Instead, it's that lower vibrational ego that holds us in that place. And we forget that there's more to our whole existence than just that we're actually souls that are having this experience. So let the soul then have the experience and then move on and let the soul have something else to do, right? This is where you make that transition from one phase to another. And if we turn to Degas again, on its side here, you're looking at, if you were to let this momentum come down and this momentum come up, you're going to have the blending of the Merkaba here. You see? That's what you're going to have. The soul infusing into and making that connection between higher awareness of the soul and the physical reality. that we experience here in these forms that we take. So if you just imagine them moving together and making that connection, you end up with a Merkaba. Or the soul vehicle. Because it's literally, well, 3 triangles coming together, but 2 triangles coming together in the 2D part of it. But so you can see some interesting synchronicity here, allowing soul to essentially drive that ship instead of allowing ego to do that. I really think that, again, when I write this up here, I'm going to write this up and put it over on Stepping Aside and also over on Substack and Medium and Patreon. But it's going to take me a little bit to do this because I think that we're looking at so many synchronicities here with the 2 here of the day, with the 11 numerology of the cards, which is, the master number for awakening and enlightenment. Again, pulling yourself out of the moment of tristitia. That is a valuable place to be for a time. It honors whatever happened, and it gets you thinking about it, which is a good thing. It's just at some point you have to allow the Dagaz energy to happen. You're standing here in here instead of over here in the tristitia side. Move over here. And feel that transition and the door happen and that door open for something else to think about, essentially, and for something else for you to embrace something new, to where you get out of the stuckness that tristitia causes. So, and again, if you're looking at the overall numerology of 7, I'll just say this as the last thing I'll say about this. You're letting the scales come to rest. And you're observing the situation as it is and finding the alignment. You see that here with awakening here, the new day here with the towers as well. There's that element of balance there, bringing everything to a rest so that you can see what you've got, allowing things to settle out to see what things really are. That's the process you then take to then be able to move on and to embrace the new day of Dagaz. So if something like this is happening here for you, this is a process. And it's just basically describing what the process is. If it's not, maybe it will in the future. And you can remember this and say, well, okay, this is my moment to examine all this, to feel the feelings I have. But at some point, we've got to move on here and embrace life again and not become so stuck in grief that you can't move anywhere. So anyhow, a lot for a Monday, but I love the synchronicity of all this. This is just cool. I mean, we see this sometimes in readings, but this much, I don't know. It's kind of interesting. So anyhow, thanks for watching. And if you have not clicked subscribe yet, I hope you'll do that and come back again and join us on Thursday for another edition of As Above, So Below. Be good to yourself, be good to one another, and blessed be.